Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Avodah Zarah, and we are on the bottom of the Yutet Amud Bet. Starting the Mishnah. Today's limud is dedicated for Zchud Yehoshua ben Diana, Yael bat Rivka, Menashe ben Asit. This Amud is also being learned. Le'ilui Nishmat Tzipora, but Yitzchak. The last piece of the Gemara that we had was speaking about the Choshen Mishpat aspects of when a worker gets paid, halachically speaking, and we saw that actually makes a difference. Is it that every minute that I work, I earn the schar, the wages of that minute? Every makosh, every bang that I do is going to have its own separate schar and reward? Or is it that en schirut ela lebasof, that the whole thing is accumulating potentially, and then when I finish the job, that's when I get the entire schar, and then it makes a difference. If you are building in Avodah Zarah, an idol, the moment that you finish the job, and now this is considered a statue of Avodah Zarah, that's the moment that you get the schar, and the schar will be considered being paid for building an Avodah Zarah, which would be asur. So that's what the Gemara mentioned at the very last piece of the Mishnah in previous Mishnah. Now the Mishnah speaks about building or making tachshitim of Avodah Zarah, ornaments for Avodah Zarah, different pieces of gold they would put. Sometimes you still go to places in Los Angeles and you find like a naked fat man sitting on a statue of thing, and they have things that they put in front of it. And sometimes in other countries that they have bigger Avodah Zarahs, they have gold and silver and all kinds of different items made to beautify the Avodah Zarah. En osin tachshitin la'avodat kochavim. You cannot make ornaments for Avodat Kochavim, for an idol. The different things that the Mishnah mentions is katlaot, nizabim. These were different golden katlaot is a necklace, basically a tight necklace. Nizamim, tabaot. All of those things you cannot make. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, bischar mutar. If you are charging for it, then it will be mutar. Now this is questionable if this belongs here or it doesn't belong here. That's a piece that the Vilna Gaon maybe questions that piece. But says the Gemara, ein mochrin lahem bemechubar lekarka. You can't sell to them something that's attached to the ground. What's the basis of this? Basis of this is the Gemara is going to explain, you're not allowed to sell land to Oved Avodah Zarah, to idol worshipping individuals. They certainly cannot give them land, sell them land. You cannot. Now, anything that's attached to the ground is considered part of the karka, whether it's trees, houses, anything that's attached to the ground is part of the ground, so therefore you cannot sell to them. Now, how we learn that, the Gemara is going to darshan. Says the Gemara, but that's only when they are attached to the ground. But if you already cut them down, if it's a tree and you cut it down already, or you pulled it out of the ground, and now they're going to go and plant it somewhere else, that's mutar. It's no longer considered mechubar lekarka, and that would be mutar. Rabbi Yehuda says not only that, but if they are planning to sell it, and then afterwards the goy is going to be cutting it down, that also is mutar. So in other words, you could tell a goy, this tree that you see over here, if you want it for wood, you could have it. I'm selling it to you right now, and then you could come and cut it down. That also is mutar, even though that b'sha'a shata mocher, the time that you're selling it is still mechubar lekarka, it's still attached to the ground. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, mocherhu al menat lakutz. You could sell on condition that they're going to cut it down afterwards. Says the Gemara, how do you even know that there is such a halacha? How do we know? Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina, the Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, Lo techonem. How do you translate Lo techonem? It's a pasuk in Devarim, Perek Zayin. Right? The full pasuk reads, Untanam Hashem Elokecha lefanecha, You go into Eretz Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give the nations of the land in your hand. V'yikitam, you will beat them. Hacharem taharim otam. You should completely destroy those 7 nations of the Avodah Zarah. Lo tichrod lahem berit. Do not make a covenant with them. Right? This is something that Yehoshua actually later on historically was tricked to do. Well, once they entered the land of Eretz Yisrael, he made brit with some people who tricked him to be from elsewhere and so on. But lo tichrod imahem berit. You cannot make a covenant with them. And the pasuk ends velo techonem. What does it mean lo techonem? How do you translate that? Huh? It's a very interesting thing. What does that mean, lo techonem? I understand lo tichrod lahem berit, but lo techonem is a very vague language, and grammatically is very interesting the way it says as well. Now the Gemara is going to have here and in Sanhedrin, the Gemara darshins 3 different things, and all 3 of them are halakha. And it's going to involve a little bit of grammar, which we're not going to get into the details of it. Now, the Rishonim actually debate what exactly is the back and forth of the grammatically correct language of the Gemara. But be that as it may, we will learn 3 different halachot from this one word, lo techonim. What's techonim? Says the Gemara. Lo techonim, lo titen lahem chaniya bekarka. Techonem comes from language of chanaya or chaniya. Chaniya bekarka. You are giving them a place, a foothold in the ground of Eretz Yisrael. Hashem says, I'm giving this land to you. You kick them out, and you will not leave a foothold for them in the land. Anything that's considered foothold for them in the land of the Avodah Zarah, of the idol worshipping people, that would be considered a problem. Now Rambam discusses this, it's not a isur of any nation. Gir toshav is mutar, no problem, right? Even though that they're not Jewish. But you have somebody that is considered an idol worshipping individual, you're not allowed to give them a foothold in Eretz Yisrael. Chanaya bekarka. Any piece of land that they have, it's a foothold in the land. So therefore, anything that's land or is by extension considered land, you cannot give them. It goes against the pasuk of lo tachonem, lo titen lahem hanaya bekarka. Okay, that's one. Says the Gemara, hay lo tachonem mibayle. Gemara says you can't use it for that because we need lo techonem for a different drasha. You know what we learn from lo techonem, says the Gemara? Says the Gemara, da'achi kama rachmana lo titen lahem hen. You know what lo techonem means? It's very simple. It comes from language of hen. What's hen? Favor. Charm. You're not allowed to give an oved avodah zarah hen. Take a look at Rashi in the beginning, on top of the Amud. Not allowed to say, oh, look at this idol-worshipping Buddhist. How beautiful, or how handsome he is, or how beautiful this idol is, or this temple is, or whatnot. Right? Not allowed to give them hashivut. Why? Again, because anything that you give chashivut to of the Avodah Zarah, you are by extension giving chashivut to the Avodah Zarah itself. And that's something that you're not allowed to do. It says very interesting, Sefer Chinuch, he says, Al tifnu el ha'elilim. And that pasuk says, the Sefer Chinuch, one of the great names of the Rishonim, says in one understanding that you can't look, you can't turn, literally, al tifnu el ha'elilim. Don't turn to Avodah Zarah. And says, Sefer Chinuch, you're not allowed to look at the Avodah Zarah. Why? Because it says when you look at something, when you turn to something, you're creating a connection. And that connection pulls a person little by little towards that thing. Right? We had a whole thing of letzanut, right? We had a whole page on how bad it is to be a scoffer, to be a mocker, right? And yet Chazal say, Kol letzanut asura, chutz mi letzanut da avodah zarah. All of the letzanut is asur, it's bad, aside from letzanut of Avodah Zarah. It's good and permitted to make letzanut, to mock idol worshipping. Why? Because that causes you to distance yourself from that mindset of Avodah Zarah. So you find many things that Chazal or the Torah itself has instituted for us to keep a distance. So one of them is, Lo titen lahem hen. You don't say good things, shvachim, Avodah Zarah. Whoa, look at this beautiful golden statue. You don't say things that are nice about of the Avodah Zarah. This is a way that you keep a certain healthy distance, because again, the Rambam writes, and we mentioned this many times, the Rambam writes in the beginning of the 6th perek in Hilchot Deot in Sefer Mada, says, Derech beriyato shel Adam, להיות נמשך בדעותיו ודרכיו אחרי חבריו ורעיו וחבריו ורואה כאנשי מדינתו. A person is wired in such a way, we are created in such a way, that we are drawn and dragged and we're influenced by the people around us. The pasuk says, "Vayit'aravu b'goyim va'ilmedu mima'asehem." You go in the galut amongst the goyim, halila. We learn from their mindsets. So the way we keep that distance is you don't say nice things about an idol or an idol worshiper. That's one of the things that the Torah, with the genius of the Torah, has put in place in order to keep a healthy distance. Now you could apply that to the Avodah Zarahs of today. There's a lot of things that this is in parentheses. You have indoctrination of different things, different mindsets, whether it is the gender dysphoria and all the garbage of the goyim that we are fed on daily basis. Some of that is the same methodology. The Torah says, "Lo tehonem, lo titen lahem hen." So it says, how can you use the same pasuk, same words, for this drasha and for that drasha? You're learning halachot from this. It's not just a drasha, a nice thing, a drush on Shabbat morning. You're learning halachot, that lo techonem means lo titen lahem hen, and lo techonem means you can't sell land to them. How can you learn? The regular rule of thumb is you can't learn more than one halacha from one word in the Torah. So it's taken already. It's taken for the drasha of lo titen lahem chen. How can you learn lo tchonem that you can't sell land to them? It's already taken. That word is not available. Says the Gemara, no. It's because of a grammar detail. Says the Gemara, if it was only for chen, im ken, the end of the third line, lemakra lo techunam. Why does it say lo tchonem? Right? You had to say if it's only for not giving them chen, it would have been grammatically different, written differently. We'll discuss what the details of the grammar is here. But says the Gemara, be that as it may, it doesn't say lo techunam, it says lo techonem. My lo techonem, shmamina tarti. Is coming, it makes that differentiation, that little difference, to tell you that is lo techonem with chanaya bekarka. Also you learn two halachot from it. So says the Gemara, but still there's a problem, because we find elsewhere a third drasha that we learn from this very pasuk, akte mi baile de hachya marachmana. We have a different drasha from this, lo titen lahem matanat chinam. You cannot give a free gift to an idol worshipping person. Right? This actually becomes probably one of the most important ones, because imagine you have a person that's considered an idol worshiper and works for you, right? And you want to give them a gift once a year, right? Which is something nice to do. Is that mutar? Is that not mutar? They didn't work for it. You're giving them a gift, a bonus, right? So, what's that? So it says Cham Obadia, there are others as well, say that's not matanat chinam, because you certainly expect something in return. Sometimes the expectation is they do a better job, right? If it's your mailman, well, you can't say that now, as a male person, right? If you have if you and now they're going to care to make sure that your thing is going to be there and it's got to be put in a safe place and so on and so forth. So that's something that it's a relationship that is a two side to it, and it's 100%. You have now a certain relationship that gives them the motivation to do the proper thing, and that's not considered. But if it's about mamash matanat chinam, just so, then it would be actually very challenging. I lost track of time. So says the Gemara. Let's just finish this. The Gemara says that's also because of another grammar detail. Says the Gemara, if it was only for that, I should have said lot chinam, right? With an emphasis with a yud of chinam, but it doesn't say lot chinam, it says lot chodem. So therefore, the pasuk has written it in a way that all three drashot could be learned from it. Ma lot chodem shma mina kulhu. You learn all of them from this, and the Gemara says it's not actually us going through the motions of these three things, but rather there is a clearly written braita that says all of these halachot. Says the Gemara, Tanya Nami Hachi, we actually learned all these three in one braita as well. Lot chonem, lot iten lahem chanea bakarka. You learn from it that you can't give them a foothold in the ground. Davar acher says the same braita, or lot chonem, lot iten lahem hen. And davar acher, a third halacha you learn from it is lot chonem, lot iten lahem matanat chinam. So it says the Gemara, all three of them is learned from the same word in the pasuk, and now the Gemara is going to actually discuss what is considered matanat chinam, because the pasuk seems to say that when you have a nevela, which means a shchita gone wrong, right? Everyone knows the difference between terefa and nevela. Terefa is an animal that was not healthy, a kosher animal that was not healthy, right? And you shechted it properly, but then it was found to be sick. That's taref. Nevela is a healthy kosher animal that you messed up the shchita, right? So what happens when you have a nevela? The pasuk says, you give it leger asher be'artzecha titenela. You give it to someone, a goy that lives with you in the land, or you sell it to a stranger. So giving as a matana versus selling is something that the Gemara is going to actually pay attention which one is which, and learn from it whether or not you could just gift something for free to a goy, which Bezrat Hashem will continue in the days to come. Hazak Baruch.